Hey, what's going on?
How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. It's been a while.
It's been a bit.
How you been?
I've been good. Just been having fun. Been back at it.
It seems like you're up to a lot. I'm just getting all the,
hmm
I don't know, just trying to watching everything that you've been doing from like music to the newsletter to
Sure.
cereal to the walking club. Like all of it's so cool to watch.
Thanks. I do. It's been cool. I mean, when I met you, I was sort of in the throes of it. Maybe that was 2018, 2019 when you came to LA. You were with Nick and the boys. That was such a great time.
That was a great time.
Man, shout out Sean, shout out Nick. That was special. And Cam. Yeah, I have such a love of Philly, but I feel like we'll get into that in a little bit. Around that time, it was really, I just had opened my gallery and studio. I had opened Serial and Such the year before, and I still wanted to keep going. I could just see the road before me was going to be long and vast,
Yeah.
and I was excited about it. But I speaking metaphorically, I don't think I really packed for that ride yet. It was really a path of like, if you really want to do this and you want it to sustain and you want it to be real, and you want to be, most importantly, like engaged and into it, because many artists or brands or businesses who make something and then it just feels stale. It kind of feels repetitive.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I love it. I want to live in this world. That's all I want to do. I felt like I didn't have the proper attire yet. I can really start from not to be afraid to clean the slate and start from scratch and really see. Because if you love it, then let's really see. I just couldn't be
Yeah.
afraid of putting it down. That was a bit of my journey. Right now, it's fun watching those flowers blossom again, watching it all come together, and not necessarily looking to define it. It was important at the start of my career to be like, yo, this is just because I was working in one particular medium, like songwriting and making music, to then venture in and say, yo, well, I make product as well. Okay, I make clothing as well. We're making food as well. All of that was important that it wasn't looked at as merchandise. It's not a quick little flip and something
Yeah.
I'm selling after a concert. It's just as great as everything else that I'm doing. It's as
Right.
great. And to realize that, at first I felt like I was explaining myself after a while, and I was like, there's no point. Like, I love what I do. If someone gets it, cool. If they don't, cool. And I think it reflects now in my fun. Like, I'm not interested in limiting it or defining it. If people know me through Serial, that's cool. If they, you know,
Right.
I make a bunch of stuff.
I
Yeah,
love
man.
that the ideas all connect in some capacity and have
Yeah, for
some
sure.
touch point.
Yeah, and most naturally, because I feel like everybody spends a lot of time looking to define what they do. And that's fine, but it gets in the way of when you were young and you were just working on a brand or making music. Like, you don't really know what it is yet, but you kind of like that. You don't really know how to explain it yet. But I think as we've grown up and working in formats of really clearly defining what you do as your role, creative director, art director, that's fine. But it tends to be a ceiling because there are plenty of different kind of creative directors. There's different kind of designers.
Right.
So to sort of, it's not wrong as a label, but it tends to drive those who like it off of a cliff because you're so busy trying to do what's perceived as right, or I don't know. It's just not coming from a place where you're discovering and learning it too. You're trying to define
Right.
it.
When this project we're working on came up and I was trying to explain to people how I met you, I was telling that story. I often, the way I would explain you and your practice, I would say you create from this space that is super authentic and not really reflective of what is publicly.
Absolutely.
I don't know how to articulate that in the right way, but you do it from such a pure place. It feels like you don't care what people may think of it. It seems to come from such a genuine place. And I think that's such a pure way of creating because a lot of people, especially with new landscape of how we share things, public perception plays a part. Like before you launch something, you might think, do people think this is cool? That kind of mentality. But it feels like that almost doesn't affect you. And I appreciate that.
That was part of going home or just starting from scratch, was like, man, I really like what I do though.
Yeah,
Like, man, it would
right.
be really great if people like bought my music, or if I went on tour, or if I was bigger. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's a communion with me and this work. And I feel like, man, it's such a gift. It's been so fun to realize that and get back to the root of it, which is like, wow, this is honestly pretty wild.
All right.
You have an idea. Okay. You have a wild idea. I remember the first iteration of all caps because I had two different kinds of pants.
Yeah.
I love even the prior brands before that. Like
Yeah.
that's awesome. It's beautiful just to figure it out. No one can do that though. That's unique to your experience. And the more I was in tune with what I wanted to do, it took me out of feeling like I had to compete with anybody. And I don't feel like competing. What I'm doing is on par or it's great. It stands alone. And the more I can like align with what feels true to me, even if it's away from the majority, it's great because I don't have to compete. It can't be compared against X and Y. And I like that. For me, I get to own the trail. I get to own that, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
100%.
man.
That's the
Yeah.
journey.
Genuinely.
I wanted to ask something. I think I met you as you were developing all these ideas. What was the Theo before that? What did your early career look like?
That's a great question. My father is a musician. He played the trumpet, and my mom is an artist. Most of my family on my mother's side particularly work in like design or
Wow.
fashion. My grandmother ran a textile business and her own store, and my mom was the sole employee of that store. She ran that until she went to college in London, and then my dad came to America and made their way.
Wow.
So that sort of exposure has always been at home, but my mom had me and my older sisters in the arts really early. We were just exposed to a lot and sheltered in a great way where home was our primary exposure. My parents, my mother particularly grew up Muslim. Most of my family is Muslim, but she converted. And so she
Yeah.
found a church in the US. And then as she began to go to that church, we were also exposed to so many different things. And I feel like it was really cool to have such a really strong cultural element of being Nigerian at home and then go to church and it's like American and Jewish, and then you go to school and it's like Black Spanish. I think all of that was a beautiful medley. My mom was really supportive of my exploration of arts, and my dad, because he made music, he also DJed at home. That was my primary entry into music. He was the guy who put me on to like, yo, this is Jay-Z, this is P Rock, this is R&B, this is X and Y, this is good music. And so I started off DJing when I was really young, and I got a job. My mom let me get a job at Burger King, and that's where I started. And I saved up enough money to get some turntables, and then music was the vehicle. I did a little bit of acting around that time, and Steven Spielberg had a movie that he shot in Rhode Island that I got a small role in. I liked
Damn.
it. I knew I liked it, but even at that age, I just felt like it was cool. I was like, I don't know. I'll take it when it comes. I guess I still want to just enjoy being a kid. But I would
Yeah,
say like
yeah.
the early exposure from like arts to cartoons and DJing. DJing was really my vehicle. That was like my vehicle within the city I was in college. I would go to Temple a lot because I knew a bunch of people. That's where I got to build my relationships with folks in Philly. I have folks in Rhode Island have such a strong connection with Philly who I grew up with. Maybe some of them went to URI, but we would go to Philly often. That's where I was like, oh, North Philly, South Philly. Like, this is unique. This is what state property and Beanie Siegel talking about. You know what I mean? This is amazing. And I just loved it. I loved the energy. It wasn't like the East Coast, like New York, but it was adjacent. It had its own twist. And I still feel like Philly is really singular. It stands on its own. It's very artistic, almost blue collar, kind of like Rhode Island, East Coast.
100%.
So it's very working class. I love that element. But I feel like those early elements of DJing is really what brought me around and learning and opening up for other artists and really giving me the confidence, which is what I want to do, which is to perform music. And then I got to do that. And that brought me on tour. And I ended up in LA on tour DJing. And I was like, man, this would be really cool to live here. But it's been one wild ass ride.
For sure.
One idea that carried me to the next. And I feel like that's been the journey. I get to LA and I'm DJing and I put out way has always sort of been through my craft. It hasn't been like I'm gonna get a job and save a appropriate amount of money and then I'm gonna leave and start a business. I've tried that, but it's not native to me. It tends to fall on its face. I realized this sort of haphazard, figuring it out, MacGyver, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, is the way for me. Whenever I've deviated from that, it's always kind of hurt, you know? And so I'm
Yeah.
like, those sort of things that I did when I was young, the way I handled art or approached things, that seems most true to form. That seems most true to me. And so I would say those early elements were the beginnings of, I like music, I like dancing, I like singing, I like drawing. How can I find a way to express all this stuff
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
a way that's true to me? Yeah. Well, that was where it began for me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love how powerful music can be. I've
Absolutely.
never contributed to music, and I've always been on the listener side of things. I've
Or
always just appreciated it. It's been such a big influence and inspiration for me. We use it as design influence, like just like the messaging, like
correct.
you can just visually like
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've always been driven
It's
by
it's
music.
it's powerful.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like it's one of the purest art forms there is. It
Yes.
comes from such a deep place.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It
Yeah,
really is on site. Like it isn't something else that you build in concept. It's kind of like as they would say in church, like speaking in tongues, because it just comes through you. It's kind of crazy. And I remember when I was young, I'd play a lot of video games. I specifically love
me
Nintendo.
too.
Yeah, I still love Nintendo the most. And when I would play Super Mario, the music matched the game in such a way. It was so dreamlike. And I really think about that when I'm making works. Maybe not in a way that I'm trying to necessarily build it because it's all coming from me. But I love that
Mhm.
it's like, oh, well, there's music that I have, then there's characters, and then there's like a place you can go and it's an item. It's beautiful. But I remember when I first heard NERD, Pharrell's band, Pharrell's Chad and Shay, I remember hearing like the way the guitar sound or the pianos, and it reminded me of that video game music.
Yeah.
That may be where they were pulling inspo from. That's when I was like, wow, music is so interesting because of what it's connecting me to when I hear music or sounds. I'll see numbers and colors. He draws like, oh man, we should design it to this color or that color. Sometimes people are like, why you make an orange shirt? You know, my boy Charlie at Virgin Home was like, do you have any other colors in this orange shirt? And I'm like, that's the color that came as like the words look like that shirt. I can't deviate from that. I know a gray shirt will sell, but this orange right now, that's where I'm at. Where I'm at.
No, I feel you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
sometimes it's just like a calling. You
Yeah,
gotta
absolutely,
listen to.
absolutely, man. It's the
That's
best.
insane. I love that. I feel the way you've been able to get all these ideas and really act on them is like a very like not everyone can do that. Do
Mm.
you how do you create that belief? But like what like how do you create that for yourself? How do you create that belief system? Like where does that come from? And how can someone listening start to understand that they can achieve the thoughts that are inside their heads?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's a very powerful question. And honestly, I feel like it's sort of like the fulcrum, it's the foundation for many. It's a question that everyone in many ways is asking too. It's like, how can I sort of just let it fly, you know?
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't think there's a how. I know there's not a how. There isn't like a one step. Everyone could just do that. If you look on the internet, if you just search, you can tell that everyone's looking for that answer too. It's like
Yeah.
here's 7 steps or breathe, and those things do have a sort of like running or exercise. They do have a momentary relief. They can provide temporary relief where someone can maybe feel better for a moment or have some clarity. Honestly, I'll be honest, I
Yeah.
spent most of my time really trying to figure out like, okay, so how? I'm just to me, it's like I think I've just realized I'm just my on
Some
inside. It's something,
sometimes we're just
and I don't mean that I'm better than anybody or one's
for sure.
better. I feel like my fear for me is sort of is I can't ever look back at a situation and be like, that was cool. Why didn't I see that? That drives me to be like, it's bigger than the fear of rejection for me. And I think for anybody, if it's like the love and the passion or whatever's driving you, it's like a parent a mother and seeing their child stuck under a vehicle, they're gonna pick that car up. They're gonna find a way. It's that response that's innate within a person. It's like something has to be on the line. If you aren't doing this, then there's a loss. I feel like for me, it's time. I don't know how many hours I get, and
Yeah.
I could spend time really looking to be like others, but I don't want to be like a second. I don't want to be like a second rate artist. Like I don't want to be like a B version of somebody else who I liked. I'd rather just be 100% me, and I know that that's very uncomfortable because I'm a human. I feel that. But I'm also like, I got to really see what's out there just for me, though. Like there's a seat with my name on it. I don't want to follow the pack. I really want to see what's out there. And that's going to require me to go on a little bit of a solo mission. I just feel like
Yeah.
that sort of desire is a little bit innate, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I don't know where that comes from, but I feel like I can't leave it up to chance. I got to go figure it out. Y'all might not really want to fuck with me after this. Y'all might not even like this, but I kind of got to go see that. And I've kind of been that way since I was a kid. I remember
Yeah.
getting electrocuted, getting stitches, getting hit by a car. It's like, I'm just really trying to see what's over there, though. It would drive my parents crazy for sure. Once I understand how it works, like making cereal was like, it would be cool if we opened a cereal bar. This is really fun. And then after opening it, it's like really realizing like that was one step, but I really wanted to know something else. Was like, how do I make my own cereal? Like how do I make that? And in the journey of doing that, I realized like, wow, this has been such a reflection of my upbringing growing up. My parents immigrated from Nigeria. If something is advertised as being healthy, they're gonna believe that. They don't understand how marketing works. Um, I'm eating cereal and it's delicious, but it's not really a sustenance meal. That's not really, no, it's not. It's a snack. And so tracing it down and like just realizing all of those things as I was really interested in figuring out how to make cereal. I closed the cereal bar because kids would come and I'm like, I don't really feel good offering them this cereal because I there's so much stuff that's in it. I want to eat this. I want to eat it today. I'd eat it for
Yeah.
fun, but I want to eat it as a meal. And that was really the impetus. That was the drive to make a cereal that you can actually read the ingredients and it tasted good. It didn't have to be completely healthy and boring. It's like, nah, it tastes good and it's designed well and it's cool. I feel like that, yeah, that journey for me was really just trying to answer a question like, how can I do this? And it's like, you're
Yeah.
crazy. The minimums are high or this, and it's like, well, I figured out how to do it. You know what I mean? I figured it out. It does exist. I did make it. I do make custom boxes. I had,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
and I think on the journey too, as like the more I've gotten, I think the more that I've become more serious about and honest with myself, I find that collaboration is very rare. So even the compliment you're giving me, I have to give it back to you, Saeed, because it takes one to know one. Even there are plenty of people who I respect, who I love, who I've like, yo, you want to work on a box? It's the funnest thing in the world for me to do. Custom packaging is fun. Um, but the idea of customizing or collaborating in that way is very intimidating for them. I don't think I'm intimidating necessarily. I think it allows me to understand that this thing is being made. It's so far out of the box, even though I don't see that. I just feel like, yo, it's cereal. It's not that deep. Why would you not want to design a box?
Yeah.
But for others, it's not like that. Even in what you're doing with all caps, even when I met you years ago, I was like, he's got it. I could tell whatever his mechanism is, he's got it. I could see that light in him. To see
Yeah.
the evolution of what you've been doing, it's not a surprise. I'm like, yes, sir. It makes sense.
I think a lot of that, as you were saying, the journey to stay curious and explore the idea of exploration and figuring it out and like finding that whatever that thing, like, yes, you have a cereal bar, but how do you make it? That thought
Sure.
process is key. The idea to stay curious and
Sure.
follow your light, follow the gut feeling, follow that
Yeah.
calling.
Absolutely.
That is key for anyone trying to figure it out. It could be
Absolutely.
video game creation or coding, like whatever. Just trust that. I feel like I've done that my like entire like creative career, like just
Hmm.
leaned on that gut feeling and I just followed wherever it took me, like whether it was doing photography for a little bit to like
Sure.
design. Like I didn't know I was gonna be
Sure.
a designer.
Hmm.
That just came
Sure.
randomly. But
Sure.
I listened and
Yeah.
now we're
And that's
doing
the, I feel like that's the best thing about it because it wasn't, I feel like purity often is looked at as this very serious thing. I don't feel it like that. Pure is like James. It's like, yo, that's pure. His responses in those videos, yes, sir. He's
yeah.
just right to it. Like, yo, Serial. I'm like, I love it because he's not. And it's interesting with Serial and such because I've ironically only interviewed kids, but I get the best feedback from them because they're not telling me what they think I want to hear. They're just telling me what's real. It's pure. And I
Yeah.
feel that element is missing in a lot because even if it's genuine, there's always a bit of an ulterior motive when you're making something. It's like you're designing it for it to reach the amount of readers. Not wrong with that, but man, there's some native creative. You don't really know what you're going to reach had you just gone about it in a way that was intuitive to you and natural to you. There's a need to want to embellish a little bit or play things up. Um, and that may get views or likes, but like, it's not that stuff. It's just a place to share at the end of the day. That's what the app is. It's like sharing whatever. It's anything.
Right.
I think they can sense when something is manufactured. You can always sense when something's genuine too. I don't know what that innate sensibility is. I think it's good that no one knows it because it's not something you can sit and write down. It's genuine. Some adults are afraid of kids because they're honest. They're like, I don't like that person. Humans now, we're not honest like that. We're like, oh yeah, it's cool. And we don't like it. I feel like that bleeds into our work. It bleeds into our communications, our relationships, our design. It's not pure. It's got to still be fun for you. It's got to be interesting. It's not going to relate to the audience. You watch a
Yeah.
movie and you see somebody like, you could tell an actor from someone who's just reading a script. I need you to feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. That's very well put. I love that. What how are as things are changing, like, with tech and stuff, how are you seeing, like, the future of like, is it exciting for you? Do you see the new age of technology as something good for or not even good, but, like, how are you just seeing, like, this evolution of technology and what is your thoughts on how it may affect or, like, what is your general thoughts of just the advancement of that
Do
and
you mean in regards to AI or just in general with everyone on their phone?
in regards to AI and just like
Hmm.
everything just being like everything's just getting better with technology. Like our phones are able to like shoot like
Sure.
movie quality videos. Like all
Sure.
these things are like happening all at once. Like it's
Sure.
at once making things more accessible and easier to do. At the
Yeah.
same time, I think it's good for people to do things quickly, to be able to do things efficiently, like just with devices they can get that they
Yeah.
normally use and like use AI to like help them get thoughts across and ideas across quickly. But I haven't talked to other creators. I personally think all of this stuff has a net positive experience, but I feel like there is some underlying, maybe negative causes to the creative
100%.
process. And I
100%.
wanted to get your take
Yeah,
on it.
100%. Yeah, I think the accessibility isn't the problem. It's like none of that has made the human experience better for anybody. All the internet would look very different about a decade and a half ago because our parents still were like, "What y'all doing on there? You're buying what?" Like it was still that, and
Yeah.
that was good. Now every parent's on there, and every accessibility is so wide. That isn't a bad thing because in practical ways, it's great that there's Wi-Fi on public buses or public areas for those who may need to connect with others. I see unhoused people, homeless individuals outside sometimes with a cell phone, and it sort of makes me giggle a little bit because having a phone isn't a sign of luxury anymore, and everyone has it. I do think that in terms of the generation and the phone usage and technology, I think it's made the tools accessible, but humans have not progressed at all. And I think the effect of that is pretty clear. Like if you scroll through any platform and look at what's being said, it's mostly drivel. Nothing of any use is really being said. When Twitter first came out, it was cool because you get to hear what people think, and then you're like, well, I don't want to hear what people think all day. The
Yeah.
tool's not even to its maximum efficiency. It's kind of the interesting thing with recycling sustainability. They're great initiatives, absolutely. That's wise for sure. But you can have everyone be sustainable. Everyone could use paper today. But if the landfills in each city don't have the proper systems to digest that, then you have just different color recycling bins. It doesn't change anything on a below surface level.
Yeah.
That's technology. Here's so many new programs you could do things faster with. But it's like, well, what are you doing with it though? There's no new ideas. I mean, being genuine, there's no new ideas. And by new, I don't mean like doing something no one has ever done in that way. Inspiration is inspiration, but like there's no singular voices. There's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of copy. There's a lot of, man, I like that. I want to do a version of that. There's a lot of that. It's sort of what's infiltrated since 2020 until now. A
Right.
lot more brands and designers and lots of designy websites. Sure, because now it's accessible. You can use a website and feel like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. But the skill and the to be an artist is a completely different road. It's a different journey. Most, if not all, have not taken that journey to explore what it is they want. No one really has an idea of what they want. I think that's the negative. It's like it could be a bit overwhelming with the amount of options you have. It's like going to a restaurant with so many things you can eat and you end up leaving hungry because it's like, I'm not sure what I want. You don't know what you want yet. It was necessary for me to go back and start from scratch. I like music, I like designing, I like film, but what do I want to do? That's a personal question that everyone has to explore for themselves. That's not something you could group think. That's personal. It leads down to the human experience again. I don't feel like the addition of more stuff makes it better. I think it's still about the human and the human first because there are great artists and designers who I know who have really shoddy websites still on a blog spot. They're designing wild things. They
Yeah.
don't care if anybody hears who they are. It's like, yo, bro, this stuff is mad. What's going on? This could be amazing. And they have no interest in that because they're not doing it for that reason. But their design and where they're pulling that inspiration from is so unique. I think that's cool. I feel like the limitations are great. I'm always looking to refine what it is I have. It's real easy to be like more and more. But I really just want to have like some of my favorite artists, like DJ Premier or the Neptunes. They were really great because you knew the drum and you knew the kick. It's just simple. You know what that is when you hear the synth, the chord synth. You hear the drum and kick. It's apparent, and that's scary for a lot of people. But it's like, well, the greatest fast food company in the world, McDonald's, that fry is consistent. You can go to Japan. I've been to Japan and had McDonald's fries. I've been
Yeah.
to New York. I've been to Rhode Island. It's consistent. Burgers and fries. I think there's a lot of beauty and mystery and magic in slimming down and realizing, like, okay, I got a lot with me. What do I really need? That sort of audit. Again, it comes down to, like, what do you want? Because what you want.
I've been going through a similar experience over the summer. I feel like this summer was a crazy year for guys. So I was trying to learn what this landscape was. I was trying
Completely.
all these different programs. I was like, oh, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try that. And I ended up with a bunch of things I was exploring. These all generally do the same thing. None of these are helping. All that really matters is like this core like way of note taking and like way
Mhm.
to like document. And essentially I just removed all those constraints or programs that existed in this one thing that has led to inner exploration, which has led to like other insights. So
Yeah, correct.
I think constraints, and also another example is we started producing in this way where we don't use raw materials. The way color gets implemented onto clothing is through printing. It's all digital. Originally, we saw that as a pretty negative setback.
Like you mean in terms of the designer label?
So like this shirt, for example, like this wasn't dyed. This was printed. Like it was printed to be black. It starts off as white. The
Okay.
factory just has organic.
Flat. Sure.
Yeah.
And then
So any
it's like
color.
the DTF or DTG process where it's dyeing it that way.
At first we were like, this is like, it just had like, I don't know, like it just wasn't the kind of feeling that we want for the clothing.
Sure.
And then we just started exploring it more, and it kind of like that constraint led to like new ideas. Like
Completely.
all of it, all of it's digital, so we can take like a digital file. Like we were messing around with camo, so we like everything could be done in Photoshop. So we just made the camo blurry and made it repeatable, and now we have a blurry camo that
Absolutely.
is visually like this. So it
Absolutely.
led to new insight. I feel like that's a powerful tool. There's so much out there, and
Correct.
almost limiting to specific tools or putting yourself in a box. Everyone says think outside the box, but sometimes going inside that box and figuring out what you can use to the maximum
Facts.
capacity is key.
You already have everything you need. You saw all the movies already. You know the Christmas horror. You already know how this stuff goes. But when it comes to the places you want to get to, you already have the tools for them. It's just about identifying them. Everything that I've always been inspired by or realized that I wanted were the things that I did have. Like a lot of this really new wave of a genuine inspiration. Like it's almost like a magician when they're pulling endless stuff out of a hat. That's how I feel with posture, walking club, cereal, and music, because the inspiration was coming from my experience of being a Nigerian American. It's like, this is crazy. Wait, I made this shirt called Little. There's a small town in Rhode Island called Little Compton that I grew up around. It's a walking trail, and it's so iconic. But no one's ever gonna think of an idea like that. It's not like I'm looking online and seeing something. It's stuff that I already had experienced. It's the journeys I've taken with my parents, my mother, or my siblings, or something that I remembered. I don't need to read anything new in order to get that. That's really just accessing what's already there as opposed to looking for anything new.
100%. Do you think that experience of pulling from existing memories, I feel like that is a vulnerable experience, and like letting people, like you're exposing
Yeah,
you.
completely. It's really all self mining. Like you're just really mining within yourself. And if you're truly mining and if you really want to figure something out, then it requires you to be quite sincere about what you see and the things that you're not a fan of seeing and the things you're a fan of seeing. That entire experience is kind of what you want because you're going to find something you didn't even expect to happen upon.
Yeah,
Didn't In this new wave, I was done with posture in 2020. I felt like it was a great vehicle that allowed me to understand, yo, man, I did it all. This is cool. I want to know if I could design without any schooling, and I did it. There was a reinvigoration for the brand. As I speak to you now, I'm like, oh man, that's so interesting. It is just calling to my experiences now. It's like I had to surrender it all of trying. And then it just flies on its own. We have a fragrance coming out. It's called Cape Cod Lettuce. Rhode Island, but rubble of the things you don't like. And you have an opportunity if you want to address them or not. And that's the difficult thing. I think that's hard for any human. I'm no different. You don't want to hear your limitations. You don't now. That's hard. No one wants to hear that. But that's where the magic is though. Because once you understand, like, okay, so that's what it is, that's where the clarity comes. Because now I'm like, I could work with that. If I can't do this, if I'm 5'2" and I'm in the NBA, I can only be the one. Well, you know what? Now that I'm 5'1", I have an entire different approach for how I'm going to pass, how I'm going to score.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it really does come down to acknowledging those arenas that it's really about, do you want to explore, do you want to learn or not? You're going to see plenty of things you don't want to see, but that's kind of what makes you perfect. That's kind of what makes you a one of one, you know.
Yeah.
It separates you from everybody. And I think that's hard. Like as humans, we want to be together. But these journeys, at least in exploring who it is and what you want, that's a solo journey, you know. It's like, what do you want?
How do you think about your future career? How do you envision all these things playing a part? And like I'm assuming like at once these are all contributing to like one large goal.
Tight.
That
You
was
listen,
cinematic.
you Philly Steve Jobs right now. I was fucking with that. That
uh,
was awesome.
I feel like, yeah, all these things you're working on, are they leading to something that you envision in the future? Like, do you want to have
Mm.
like I guess, how do you, a better
It's a
way?
great question. It's a great question. I appreciate the questions you're asking because I could tell they're genuine because you're also recollecting as you're saying it. You know, you
Yeah,
don't sound like you're like got a form and it's real. You know, this may I don't know in the form which this will be shared. I mean, I'm gonna obviously share it on my own platforms as well, and I feel like those who read my stuff know that I just be I'll be
yeah,
I'd be deep with it. But I feel like it really isn't important to me where it leads to. All I know is it's like I'm the passenger in and inspiration is driving that car. Whatever force that is, it's really doing the driving. I'm really like, where are we going? What are we doing? You know, and it doesn't reply. It's just like, here's a new idea. Here's something else. And I can kind of get an idea of what all this is amounting to, but I don't really get the answers like that. And I realize I don't know if I even want to know because not
yeah,
knowing I'm completely locked in, I'm fully in it, you know. And again, we're speaking about the journey of going back home. It was important for me to start from scratch and honestly, like, just pick my mom up from work and chill with my dad and have dinner with them and pay respect. I realized they were really my muses for everything. I love the artists that I love, but I would not know them had it not been for my dad. Had he not exposed me to that, I wouldn't be interested in textile or design or know the designers I know, or even want to explore painting or design if it wasn't for my mother or my oldest sister, who was really like my first acting coach. They set the tone. So going back there and just paying homage was realizing like, oh, it's really y'all who put me on. I know I got friends and people in the industry, but it's really y'all who put me on. That to me was the end of trying to be something. I don't, it's gonna sound wild. I don't have no aspiration or no goal at all. I think that's what keeps it like everlasting. If it moves, it moves. But everything I interact with, if I'm like, yo, Saeed, how do you think about working on a box? It's genuine. It's not like I'm going through a list of 6 people, like
right.
that individual. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay too. I'm really moved by that inspiration. I'm so devoted to that. Like I'm so interested in completely just giving way to that thing because it's such an amazing ride. It's probably the greatest experience of my life, just working on stuff. And I feel like a kid every day. I wake up and like, whoa, this is tight. Or like, yo, the boxes came in. That's tight. Man, everything is wow, wow, cool, tight. And I think it's just genuine. And I'm okay with not knowing where it's gonna go. At first, I'm like, yeah, if I want to be the number one artist in music, that's fine. But the minute I hit that mark, I'm gonna deflate. And it's like, I don't want to deflate. I don't want to get off this ride. I want it to last forever. And I think for a ride like that, in order for it to be like everlasting, you kind of have to give yourself to it, you know? And
100%.
I think it's me recognizing every day, like, wow, I think I'm all in. This is crazy. Whatever this thing wants, wherever it wants to go. And I think that's just where I am with it.
I love it. It's part of the journey. It's the ending. It doesn't matter. The journey,
Nah,
the
nah. Yeah, I'm in
experience.
that. Yeah, sure.
You're in it.
Because for me, I feel like the end result is ultimate freedom. The end result to me is having reached a point where I'm truly not even functioning from the domain of having to think. It's just like so automatic where people are probably like, who that? It's like free, like an animal's free. They're not even aware of their habits or what they do. It's like that level of freedom artistically, just reaching a place of greatness in that way. Because if you can reach a place of greatness or freedom within your works, then everything that comes from you is amazing. It's like you look at a baby, they poop, you're like, oh, they smile, you're like, oh, yeah, everything they do is just oozing with this purity.
Yeah,
I want everything I do, whether it be music. I don't want to just be a good musician or a great musician. I just want to be great. Everything that comes from me, I could go into making furniture or shoes. It's like, if this individual is just everything he does, there's something about it. And I feel like that's what the epitome of a brand is. I feel like that's what an Apple product to me was. They could do no wrong. This is crazy. They're not even first to market making this type of product, like maybe improvements on an iPhone or an iPad, but the way they approach it is unheard of. And I like
Yeah.
that. To me, like that to me is inspiring. It's like, yo, they could really put out anything. They could do anything and it would get my attention. They designed a new store in LA at the Grove. That is a piece of art in and of itself. Glass ceiling, they have live trees. No store in the world would do that. They'd be like,
Yeah.
it's not in the budget, but their approach is so singular. To me, it's like it has to be that, no less. I need that. I need that.
100%.
Yeah, yeah, I need that. I just need that.
But this is also kind of in the same vein. Do you have a definition of what success looks like for a project, for yourself, for the projects you're working on, whether it be like this specific collaboration or like your entire, like,
Mhm.
do you define success or do you just let things happen?
I feel like that's a good question. Success is absolutely person dependent. What success for me is different from another person. It's got to be your own journey because if you're just like success, it's like, well, everyone's idea of success is different. For some
Yeah.
people, being a designer is just getting a steady paycheck. For
Right.
somebody else, it's making something that blows their mind. It's person dependent. So I would say for me, it's about, does it align with the greater goal of that greatness? It does. How do I feel as I'm making this? You know, it's like mining. It's not a pretty job. I'm covered in soot. It's a mess getting to
Yeah.
this thing. But did I get where I wanted to go? And for me, getting where I want to go is like, despite how people may not like it, buy it, enjoy it, I may feel uncomfortable by whatever. Did I arrive at a place internally that I feel is congruent, in line with that goal of ultimate? It's like, yeah. For instance, it's like, okay, well, making the last shoot, I had this shoot for Posture Walking Club. I went home to photograph my family. I had a few shoots in Rhode Island before, but I've never shot anything of this professionalism and this magnitude. And the challenge was in like, it's my family. So they don't know the industry. They're just my good old family, you know? So
Yeah.
it's, it, the success for me in that was navigating, producing that entire shoot, working with everyone's personalities, needs, preferences, and uncomfortabilities, and still photographing it in a way, not that the photos look quote unquote good, but that I can actually look and be like, whoa, I did it. I didn't force anybody to be a particular way. I just wanted to catch them as they are. So did that work for me? And that was difficult just because of the weight of it, of the amount of personalities. If you hire a model or someone who wants to be photographed, it's different. But photographing your family is not the same thing. You know, they're doing it because they love me and they're like, he's up to one of his crazy schemes again, and we're gonna
Yeah.
be the subject in it. When I got back on the plane to head back to LA, I really knew that I left it all there. I wasn't like, oh man, or she should have did this. It was complete peace. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I mastered that. My mom's huge on family photos. We take them often. And it was like, I got to do the family photo just through the lens of my brand. Proud and having my siblings there and really showing, I wanted to show each of them because it's like, I'm one of five. They're really ill. He's an amazing producer and actor. My brother is a way better designer. Sure, there may be some hurdles there, but nothing's more difficult than a crib, you know? Like Philly
Yeah.
loves you. I see it in the comments. I see how they respond to what you do. It's again, it's a one of one city. There's not a lot of East Coast towns like Philly, you know, and you could clearly tell that they resonate with the things you do and what All Caps does because it is real, you know. It's something
Yeah.
that they resonate with. I think it speaks more of that, and I feel like even my family, like they're gonna participate because they love me. To see their excitement was massive, and to see how they felt
Yeah.
after it, see the energy in the room. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we did it. That to me is like my barometer when I can come into a situation where I don't know how it's gonna turn out, and then I come out of it, and it's like, oh man, I think we got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's, well, a unique feeling. Going through that process and having that just to affirm to yourself that was a good idea and everyone's into it, like, that
Correct.
feeling, it doesn't get, I don't know how to explain that.
Because that's
Have it.
personal. It's very intuitive. It's like something that you felt deeply about. You achieved that in such a way. You're pleased by. You're satisfied by that. You're like, there's a piece there. To me, it's like I would consider myself a problem solver, but also a troublemaker in many ways.
Yeah.
It's like you're going into a situation that might be tense, and you're gonna dig and you're gonna disrupt some people, and that may cause some conflict. But you're gonna unearth something that hasn't been seen before. I think about that honestly, like many great individuals, from Harriet Tubman. It's a wild concept to conceive that her fighting for freedom, even her being free, was illegal. That's to think about that today is like, yeah, sure. But in that time, it's like if she followed the rule, you know what I mean? It's like if you went the way of what society said, that's crazy to think about now. But in that moment, that's the equivalent of probably speaking your mind today. It's like, how dare you,
Yeah.
Or even Martin Luther King, like you had a dream about. How dare you? You had a dream. Dreams are like positive things,
Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't say I had a fear or a nightmare. It was like, bro, I have a dream. I feel like we could do this. That's pretty bold to say at that day and age. But again, it speaks of that. I know I'm going to say some things that are angering some folks, but I feel like there's something in it. I know you guys are saying no, but I think there's something worth exploring in there. It's that kind of sensibility that I feel like you look back and you're like, wow, thank God they did that. I think
Yeah.
it just, you end up being a person who's just going into a dog pile and you're creating a mess, but you're going to find a diamond. That's a fact. Those individuals are proof of it. And
Yeah.
many other artists and individuals in this life, some who get credit, some who don't. But I think it's that journey of like, yo, what's in there?
Yeah, exploring that and like really
100%.
trying to create your own opinions and like really just
Facts.
thinking through
Yeah.
things as a single person and not like,
Yeah. Because
yeah,
everybody wants that. Everyone wants to be able to express themselves. Everyone does. Everyone wants to say how they feel. And I don't mean to just spill baggage, but everyone wants to make art and design and make product. The practical reality is that it's just not going to happen. And it's not going to happen because the weight of the world is heavy, bro.
yeah,
So even to design is wild. The audacity of making that to me is like, that's the greatest. I don't need it to be in every store. The
yeah,
fact that I go to a factory, I sit with three people who know how to make this stuff now. We've been making it for 5 years and we go in there and roll dough to make it and sell it. I love it because I want to use every opportunity I got. There's nobody like me who would do that. That's kind of why I like it. Go
yeah,
other places where let's keep going. Let's keep exploring. There's a lot to see here. And even
yeah,
for folks, there are many people who I grew up with who likely who love the creativity who may not reach that, who likely don't have the means or the mental fortitude to figure it out. They may not have the opportunity to do that. Those individuals inspire me because I'm like, well, I don't have an excuse. I can figure it out. I have the fortitude. I just can't put it down. So it's like, I feel like it's a waste if I don't do it. I think that to answer probably your first question, it's like, I feel like it's a waste if I don't do it, bro. If I
yeah,
don't, I feel like I let them down. It's like, damn, you could have actually did it, bro. You could climb that mountain and you didn't because what? Someone said that your shirt was ugly. It's like I got to dig a little bit deeper where those things, they don't affect me. And I think the output of that is likely what you see with just sharing because it's like, it
yeah,
can't be about someone liking this or following this.
yeah,
I saw on that you had a bunch of followers because I did see the name change. I was like, oh, it's all caps
yeah,
code work. And then I saw a post today, but that the account
yeah.
was wiped. Was it intentional?
We got hacked by some professional. He took the entire thing and we couldn't get it back then.
Did they offer you? Did they try and bargain with you or something?
He tried to sell it to us.
Really?
Crazy. And we were just like, at that point, it was just so hard to trust him and figure out the
Facts though.
system. I was honestly like so over it. I also didn't take it
Hmm.
that serious. It's just like an Instagram account. I was just like, we'll just redo this. Like all of this is just a way to communicate. So let's just start a new way of communicating. So
Yeah.
looking back, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise. The way we were doing
Mm.
content, we had a formula we were working on. And now I've ditched that whole
Hmm.
system. I'm rethinking how to approach it. It's been helping me get more excited about like taking the photo. Like I've been like
Sure.
recharged in
Sure.
a way.
Sure. Sure.
It's kind of like a blessing in
Sure.
disguise. So I'm glad he can have it. Do
Hmm.
whatever you
I'm
want.
say that because you got it, man. 100 billion%. Like you could have one follower, I would still know you had it. Like an opportunity would still come your way. You just got it. I don't care how many
Thank you.
followers you got it, and I think that's really beautiful that you're also in tune enough to understand. Like, let's just get back on it, because that's not the case for many folks. That might be the ending of a whole business.
Yeah,
That's so you getting back in the game is like, yeah, absolutely. Like it's bigger
yeah.
than that.
It's
Like,
bigger than that.
damn, beautiful to hear, man.
Yeah, it's been a journey. This whole thing has been a journey. I've been loving it though. I can't get enough of the journey.
Yes, sir.
I just want to keep going. I'm
That's
honestly
great.
like I'm having so much fun just like
Like
working
fun.
with people. Yeah, it's such a blast. It's truly such a blast. I'll be ashamed to not do this. I need to listen to whatever this is inside. I need to just follow it, and it's gotten me here. So I'm just gonna
For sure.
stay on it. We've been in for about an hour. I think I got one more question for you.
Yeah,
And
go
then
ahead. You can take as much time as you want.
I want to see. I know there's always a tough one, but if someone were to watch this and like maybe seeking some like advice from you on like how to maybe get started or take steps in their creative career or just their career in general, is there any steps you would recommend? Do you have any um, principles or quotes that might help them?
It's a genuine question. I don't know.
That's a tough one. I think
Yeah.
for me, I always tell people whatever it is that they're trying to do, like just do like I believe like I've been especially this year, this idea of compounding, just doing one small thing a day can lead to like if you did one
Sure.
small thing towards like whatever you're trying to do a day, you will be so much far ahead in that month. And like imagine 3 months, imagine 6 months, imagine the end of
Sure.
the year, like with just that one, like maybe you spend 15 minutes doing, I don't know, it could be personal like fitness. Like if you did 10 push-ups and then you did 20 push-ups and then you
Yeah.
do all this
Yeah.
compounds and becomes really effective. And I truly didn't think about this until recently. You can apply that to so many different facets of your life. This new age of social content, everyone's doing
Mhm.
short form, and short form can be difficult, especially if you're doing front-facing camera videos. It can be intimidating. But if you did 10 minutes a day, just speaking to your camera and your phone, maybe not even posting it, but just the act of doing it, getting those reps in and that compounding effect, I feel like that's a very important thing.
Have people approached you with, I'm sure you get folks who are looking whether to start a brand or share content. Has there been an individual that you followed through from start to finish? Have they applied it? Has it been applied?
I'll always
And
just give the spiel and
yeah, I'm always
like
interested because I find advice is so personal for a particular human being. I think I approached life when I was younger, even in relationships, trying to save others. But I don't think I ever asked them what they wanted. I never stopped to ask them what they want because I also didn't even ask myself, like, what do you truly want? I think it all begins there for anybody. It's like, what do you want? And in many ways, to your words too, if you get in a car and you back out the driveway, the first question you're going to ask is, where do you want to go? You're not just going to drive.
right.
You got a quarter tank of gas and you're going to pull out of the drive. Where are you going? I want to go to the grocery store. Okay, so if you want to go to the grocery store, then it requires you going east. I'm trying to go to the gym. Well, the gym requires you going west. Even a modicum of where you want to begin. Like,
Yeah.
what is it that you want? That can get someone there. Oftentimes, there hasn't been a refinement or even an exploration of that. It's like, give me, give me, give me. And that's awesome. I could give you 40 steps that I know guarantee will work. But it also has to be in your heart. You would have to truly want that. It's so difficult to give. It's
Yeah.
also why I share so deeply and so raw, is because I'm not pulling no punches. I'm not going to sit here and give you the 10 best steps.
Yeah.
Like, here's my experience and what you take from that, you take of that. But so that way I lay it all out so that way I know I've given all of myself. Like, I've done everything I possibly can I feel like I'm a walking example. I didn't go to school for art. I don't have any interest. I was born in it. It's what my mom does. Nigerian. I left the brand. I make cereal from scratch. I did it out of the back of a studio. I opened one. I closed one. Even in the minute details, I don't have to be an artist, but I feel like it'd be like asking my mom, like, how can I be a good parent? It's like, man, just look at what she did though. Like, that's kind of the example. It's like, man, I would have to mind that and explore that. Which is why I say that to you. It takes one to know one. It might be fun for you to make a cereal box and work on it. Bro, that's not everybody. That's a daunting task. If I was maybe X brand or someone else and I approach them, it'll give them the opportunity to maybe keep the image that they have. But over here, we in the beach, baby. You got to shed all that. It's too hot there. There's nothing to hide behind. Like, we're
Yeah.
doing it because we actually want to do it,
Yeah.
and we're sharing it because we want to do it. And so it makes the content, the art that's created, it makes it super duper original and fun because we really want to do it. We're not doing it to garner a laugh or applause of a cereal. I mean, the cereal is vegan, gluten free, soy free, wheat free. It's a proper cereal and it's not even promoted as such because that's boring. I just want you to eat it first and be like, this is actually good. Then
Yeah.
happen to realize, whoa, this is actually a vegan cereal. This is pretty unique. It isn't wrong to promote it as vegan, but it's about the essence of which I'm getting at. It's like, I do it because I love it. I just want to be able to eat cereal for 40 years or 50 years. So I'm making it with these ingredients. I feel like I leave it all on the line. I'm not saying to read my stuff or buy my stuff. It's complete heart. It's 100%. I'm not like, there's no gimmick behind it. And I think if a person's receptive to those things, the answers are kind of in that, because I'm not hiding the source. It's like, I'm all in.
Yeah.
On some level, you'd have to want it. Even if you're hungry, you got to walk to the kitchen. What do you want? Man, I'm hungry. You open the fridge. What do you want? I want burgers. Okay, do you want to order it? Do you want it? You want to heat it up? Do you want like McDonald's one, or do you want like, a refined one? Do you want a smash burger, or do you want a big one? It's getting down to that level where it's basic, because the ideas are too big. It's too complex. It's not that complicated. It's simple. I was with a friend and their daughter was with us. My friend was saying, "Man, I'm hungry. I'm just trying to find a good place." They were visiting out of town. They're like, trying to find some sushi, a good place to get sushi. And their daughter said, "At a restaurant." And I was like, legend. It's not that complicated. The answer's right there. It doesn't have to be this thing. If you want a refined one, then we can find that. But we tend to get in the sort of
Yeah.
that rhythm. And I think it does come down to like, what do you want? Just keep it simple. Don't get all big wordy and say things that you don't know the definitions to. Just what you want. I want to have
Yeah.
fun. Okay, well, where do we want to have fun at? It's really working with individuals in that way, and just getting back down to square one, where it was simpler, where it wasn't so complicated.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Where are we going?
Where are we
What
going?
do you want?
What do you want? No?
Yeah.
We can find a route there. And I feel like that is where I realized, as I've creative directed for working at Apple, which was fun, in other companies and working with artists, I realized like, oh, I didn't know what it was when I was hired to be a creative director. I just know I had ideas and I had a way of figuring them out. But that to me was just how I worked. That wasn't
Yeah.
what I thought was a career path. And so it's something that I realized as I've worked with artists and others. It's really about distilling that, refining it. What do you want? I know there's money. Yeah. I know there's people who have expectations of the money they gave you. For everybody, it's freedom. I just want to be able to do stuff without thinking about it. There's a way to get there. For everybody, it's just the freedom, whether to explore, whether to write stuff, whether to not feel like they have to do the things in order to be. Like there are so many people who go to school or take the extra steps. Not that school is right or wrong, but they'll do that just to justify saying they design, and it's we don't have that kind of time. It's finite. No one knows when that comes or goes. But they're doing that because of the pressures of the public. There may be some merit in that, but at the end of the day, it's still just you. So you got to make sure, like, what is it? What do you want? Let's figure that out. For most companies, it's always been like identifying that baseline. If you do want that, this is the road we have to take. You're going to have to drop all that baggage. You may not be able to take that heavy bag, the Gucci bag, all the way up there. Then we may not even get up there, but if you really wanted that, this is the route to get you there. It's like really refining. Okay, so if we're trying to get to North Philly, we're gonna have to take I-95.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna take 95 north. You're not gonna take the east exit. You're gonna stay on 95 north. If you really want to go up there, then this is the route to take. Some are like, okay, I just want to know where it is. And most companies and artists are like, I ain't trying to go up there like that. That's too much. I'm gonna stay right here. And that's fine. But I think through those experiences, I realized like, oh man, that's what this has been for others. I get it creatively, because everyone wants to do this. No one wants to feel forced to do the things they want to do, or feel like they're obligated to do it. They want to do it because they can. They want to do it without having to give it a big definition.
I love that. That is beautifully put.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
that.
it's true.
And that's reframed the way I've kind of existed. I never had that in mind until the last year, maybe 2 years. I was just trying to explore so many different things and figure it all out. And I was just metaphorically in the car, just going on a ride, just trying to experience things, see what I liked, see what I didn't like, and just take it in. Now I'm starting to figure that I loosely have a destination, and that's kind of like guiding some of the things that I'm working on. And I feel like that is key, like figuring out what I want and to help define where I want to go. I feel like that's key. So I love the way
because
you did that.
that goal, like that end result, creates such a specific pathway. If you want to make $1 million, there's a way to procure that. If you want to be really successful in the arts by way of being in acclaimed cinema, there's a road for that. There are things that you can do. The road that you're on or anyone pursues, they are the judge and jury in many ways, because they know themselves where they want to go and the things that they're doing, if those things align with them. If I say, yo, man, I'm really interested in Saeed and working with you. I'm new. I got all this design experience. I want to work with you. I'm in Philly. And I'm down to work anytime. I don't have anything to do. Things I've said, you see the work, well, then you can be able to identify like, this person's not serious. Like he said he wanted to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
but I see him out here not even
Yeah.
working. I asked him
Yeah.
for something 3 weeks ago. You
This is
can,
crazy. Because this is real. This actually happened. I had a
absolutely.
kid who was so interested. Sorry to cut you off. I
No,
had a
please come
kid
on,
that
speak.
was so interested in, like, he's such a good kid and I see the potential in him, but I gave him a project because I was like, I don't know if I could just have the person, like, that's just another job. I don't want another
Sure,
job to, like, just direct. So I was
sure.
like, I'm gonna give you a project. If you really want to be a part of this, here's this project. Execute this project so I can know where your head's at.
Hmm.
And I don't have the project. It's been
Bingo.
over. It's 2 weeks. It's over 3 weeks.
Yeah,
So it's just like
absolutely.
that. Yeah, that is a big way
Yeah. And I
of
think those things are clarified because you yourself have a road for which you're going now. You're not like, yeah, you can send it whatever. There was a
yeah.
time where like you could have pulled up on me, you could have called me
Right.
anytime, you could have said whatever.
Right.
That doesn't exist anymore because I've identified what I want. It's eliminated. That road is such a particular incline. I don't have room for extra fat like that. I can
Yeah.
identify, like, does this make sense? I can spot it quick because for me, I know the route that I'm taking. If you don't know where you're going, my favorite movie is Alice in Wonderland. And Alice asked the cat, she's like, can you help me find my way? And he asks her where she wants to go. And she says, I don't know. And he says, well, any road will take you there. And it's true. It's like, if you don't have an identifiable goal or focus, it's like being in the ocean. The current will take you. You got to really be tethered to something. And the depth of that will ensure that you get to where you want to go. But life is like the ocean. It's just constant waves of problems. Everybody's got problems and bills and more conflict, whether it's small workplace stuff or life stuff. There's no end to those things. If you're driven, you better like refine what that is for yourself, or like keep that close with you. You know what I mean? Because, well, it given life, it's sure to knock it out of your hands. You gotta be clear about that and clear about those who you work with too. It's like, is this getting us to where, you almost sit down every time, like, is this getting us
Right.
to where we want to go? I feel like how corporate companies now try to structure things. See
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
reality the real purpose of it outside of that corporate structure, where it's like, yeah, we want to be clear about what we're doing and where we're going. Is this still what we want to do? Is it where we want to go? Because things change for folks. It's like, you
Yeah.
know what? I think I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna keep going, or maybe we should both stop. It's got to be clear. I feel like, and that may not be clear at the start, but that's the beauty of the journey. Now I'm beginning to understand more and more of what I want. I didn't really know what I want when I started. It's
Yeah.
taken a decade to put it down, to be like, I just want to be great, actually. I just want greatness. I don't really want to be a great artist. I feel like I'm great already. If one person listens to it 100, what does it matter to me?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sun's shining. It's shining.
Yeah. As the year is coming to a close, how has the year treated you? Is there anything you learned this year that you haven't in any other year?
I think everything that I've shared with you are things that have been absolutely clear to me after intentionally in 2022, maybe starting really from scratch. But this year, I was relaunching Pasha this year, and same with Cyril and such. They both just relaunched officially this year. Maybe the
Yeah.
year I was really looking to see something through. And I
Yeah.
wanted, if it was real, then I would see it again for sure. And if it wasn't, then I wasn't going to see it. Everything this year was very clear. Like, those who I want to associate with and work with, the Cyril thing really is special. I was not interested in being the face of any of this stuff after realizing, like, I just love to do it. And that
Yeah.
created the same toy mark. Until later, maybe just a few months ago, I was releasing things, and then I realized, like, wait, I forgot about my Cyril and such Instagram. I had like abandoned it. I was like, whatever. And I'm like, oh, yo, we have an Instagram for Cyril. We should just use it. There's about 5,000 people here. This would be great to share.
Yeah.
If the same thing happened with Pasha, where I'm really starting these brands from scratch, and there's a genuine inspiration and interest, but from a very different angle. When I was young, I got my start DJing. I was under a larger local DJ, and we would DJ really big venues, Brown University and University of Rhode Island, and like big clubs, just 17, 18, but I'd be able to get in with them. And so it would be crowds like 1,200 people, 800 people, 500 people. And to have control of the audience that way was hypnotizing, because it was like, I'm going to play this one song right here, and it's going to change this entire room. I could play 3 songs after this that have a more aggressive tone, and I could turn this party into a fight. It's become, I spent the subsequent years creative directing and building a brand, but it feels now like I'm that kid again, where I am just producing these events and I'm watching them. I'm not DJing them. We're having an event in LA, and obviously we have one in Philly. But we're working with a grocery store. We have our cereal there. I'm not being hired to DJ, but it's my event. I have enough experience and wisdom to realize, like, this is what I ultimately like the most, though. I want to just set it all up and watch it move. That's been interesting, and I think that's all come clear this year. Whereas before, around the time I had met you, I was a little conflicted about that because I hadn't gone on the journey yet to figure out what I wanted. Do I be in it? I like doing this stuff. And all that question is like wasted time. It's like going for a drive and someone's like, are we there yet? Look around. It's beautiful. You know?
Yeah.
A lot of clarification has come about as to what I do. I'm just an artist who makes stuff. It's straight up. That's all it is. It's more undeniable than it is me trying to garner something. It just is what it is. I make music. I'm invited to Cannes to celebrate this release. It just is what it is. I can't deny it. And my close friend and partner at Posture was like, yo, I like the Toy Mart stuff, but I'm in the Theo business, you know?
Yeah.
And it was undeniable at that point where I'm like, oh man, I guess it's true. I was too afraid of just being like, it's going to be Theo again. But I realized, oh man, it works. It is true. Like me being this, it's the full package. It's not just Cyril without me. It's not just me without the stuff. It's the whole world. And I think that acceptance was real. So I would say that that's what this year is. It's like, okay, it really is all what it was before. I just have a deeper understanding. I just have 100%. I'm driving with less. There's not a thought. It's like, yeah, sure. You want to work? Cool. No. Okay, cool. Boop, 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 boop. It set things up for a very potent 2025 because it's like, okay, cool. All systems are really go. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I love that. Do you think, what do you have coming up? Like, how is that informing the next couple of steps for you?
All of the stuff that I'm mentioning now, it confirms it in a large way. I haven't shared this with anybody but my family when I went to see them. All of the things that I have built, from cereal to the cereal bar to Posture, a lot of those home items need a place to live. I feel like the work is properly understood in context. Shout out Win Cafe and everyone there for the event we're doing this weekend. It makes sense in context. Like you can go to a cafe and you're like, oh wow, cereal. For me, my work, it works in that context because it almost seems without any shape, like everything is just flying everywhere. At least that's how I felt. But in it all coming together and me understanding, just getting some clarity.
Yeah.
The next venture is for those things to live in a physical space. And it'll be a store in many ways too, but it's going to be a house. And I'm going to be building this house, like designing it myself with like 2 others. And so that'll happen here in California, and I'm sure it'll be quite interesting. I'm going to fill you in, and I'll send you some photos too.
Yeah, I would love to see.
We're staking in the ground. There's a large property that like I'll be like turning into a studio and gallery and sort of house, a little bit of like what you saw at the gallery I owned in LA. Take components, and it'll be, it's just gonna be mine. So like it won't be a store that'll have to go away. It's like my world. So upon like getting onto the land and walking in, the context, it'll all sort of, it's one world now. You could see it, touch it, feel it, where it's in context. And so the toilet roll holders, like they'll be in the bathrooms there, and it's gonna be really fun. That process is gonna be fun, and I'll document the journey for those to see.
Beautiful.
It'll be through the Theo show. But yeah, that's going to go in that pretty thing.
Incredible. I'm excited to see. I have one at the house.
Yes, you're a legend.
That's
You're a legend.
so good. Yeah, I love the way you can just take ideas and put them through so many different mediums. It was fun to watch.
I appreciate that. It means a lot, for real.
I love the conversation. Thank you for sharing your time.
Yeah. Come on, bro. It's a pleasure.
Excited for the event this weekend. I can't wait to hang out.
Yeah,
shout out to
absolutely.
Wim.
I look forward to hitting Philly too, and I'm sure we'll do something. Well, I'm gonna come visit you. We're gonna spend some time. It's over there that I have on my list that I'm dying to go to.
Oh my God, let me know. I would love to. I gotta come out there too. It's been a while, so I gotta.
Yeah, when's the last time you've been here?
2022, something like that. It's been a minute. And it was quick too. I went to Joshua Tree. I was hanging out with Sean and Nick and Andrew. Cam, we did Joshua Tree little visit, and then that was the last time I was there.
How was the trip?
Get back out there. I loved it. I miss it so much. And then Sean's out there officially now, so I gotta come check him out. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Of course. When you stop recording, I got some questions for you too.
Okay. Peace, y'all.